It looks like a totally ordinary little cabin, but every guy who walks out of it has this look of pure, unadulterated bliss on his face. Villagers are lining up for hours just to get a few minutes inside. You're probably thinking they've got some special services in there, but actually, it's just a house with radiant floor heating. Turns out, this is a medieval fantasy world where the poor literally freeze to death in the winter, and I, a civil engineering major, somehow transmigrated into a novel as a baron's eldest son. But becoming a noble didn't make me happy at all. The baron's family is drowning in debt, and this body belongs to an absolute scumbag. He basically committed every evil deed in the book across his territory. The villagers have been harboring deep resentment toward him for ages. So this body is just a trash noble destined to die in the early chapters. And the only way to reverse my guaranteed death is to completely change what the people of this territory think of me. As a civil engineering grad, I was shocked to find out that houses in this world don't even have floor heating. Most families just rely on a fireplace, and a fireplace alone cannot warm up an entire house. If I could build houses with radiant heating here, they would absolutely sell out. Hell, I could probably use this to strike it rich and pay off all the baron's debts while I'm at it. My civil engineering knowledge is finally paying off. No more breaking my back doing manual labor on construction sites like in my past life. Right then, the blueprints for a heated house started forming in my head. Suddenly, a system prompt rang in my ears. Looks like my cheat ability just awakened. Congratulations on activating the relationship point system. You can earn points by improving your relationship with major characters. But the system didn't explain what these relationship points are actually for. I figured, since it says improve relationships with major characters, the guard next to me, Havel, must be one. After all, this guy is the main protagonist of the whole novel. Sure enough, there was a prompt floating above his head. Favorability, -30. I flashed him a wicked smirk. You are really handsome. I thought I could butter up the protagonist, but his favorability dropped instead of going up. He just gave me a look of pure disdain and replied, "Yeah, I know." I was speechless. This guy is unbelievably narcissistic. Setting the system aside for a second, I just found out from Havel that the tavern owner's mother is bedridden due to the lingering winter cold. So I immediately tracked down the tavern owner and slapped a construction contract for a heated house right in front of him. Boss, you don't need to pay the full construction fee. Just count the equipment I smashed in your shop before as compensation and deduct it from the total. The tavern owner gave me a very suspicious look and activated his mental wall skill. He didn't believe for a second that I'd be nice enough to willingly pay for damages. Damn it, this body's credit score is way too low. Looks like my only option right now is to lean into this scumbag image. I instantly put on my best villain face. Listen, old man, we're going to be seeing a lot of each other. Can't we have a little bit of basic trust? Sure enough, the method worked. The tavern owner was so scared he signed the contract in a panic. The system even chimed in to praise what a scumbag I was, but I didn't care about any of that. My business empire starts with this very first order. Boss, you made a very smart choice. I absolutely won't let you regret this. Watching me threaten the boss into signing the contract, Havel assumed I was just plotting some new form of bullying. Who would have thought? You look so righteous, yet your thoughts are so completely irrational. Have you ever heard of cognitive distortion? Because of everything that happened in the past, you just assume it'll be the exact same in the future, right? That's a cognitive distortion born from overwhelming prejudice and negativity. Havel flatly stated that it wasn't prejudice. It was experience and statistics. I grabbed a shovel, ready to build the house, and told him, whether it's the boss or his mother, I am definitely going to put a smile on their faces, and their smiles will become the foundation of my fortune. I hauled out the excavated dirt, then compacted it. I repeated the process over and over to lay the foundation. As for the timber, I just had to requisition it from the Baron's estate warehouse. I built the main structure of the house with heavy logs, then coated it with yellow clay dug from the riverbank. Just like that, the exterior was done. After all that work, I was absolutely exhausted. I couldn't help but sigh at how pathetic this body's stamina really was. Havel hadn't lifted a finger to help for days, just stood on the sidelines making snide remarks. But deep down, he was actually blown away. He never expected me to actually honor the contract with the boss. Was this still the same scumbag from before? Seeing the contract deadline rapidly approaching, I didn't have time to rest. I grabbed my axe, ready to keep going. Suddenly, Havel snatched the axe right out of my hands and asked me what he should do. Looks like this guy finally found his conscience. I gestured to him, showing him to chop the wood into planks exactly this size. Havel effortlessly tossed a pile of logs into the air, and countless bursts of sword aura sliced the wood precisely to the required dimensions. Looking at the ground, seeing a workload that would have taken me hours, finished in seconds, I couldn't help but give him a big thumbs up. I marveled at him. As expected of the novel's main protagonist, the future sword saint, I quietly walked up behind Havel and patted him on the back. Once you're done with that, come shovel dirt with me. Havel couldn't believe how shameless I was. Not even a single word of thanks. And I'm giving him more work? Is this guy for real? I could tell Havel was only helping me out of pure curiosity. He wanted to see exactly what kind of scam I was pulling. You want to see the results quickly, right? So what should you do? Obviously, you should help me work. Speeding up the process is the only way you'll find out what I'm plotting sooner. Havel, completely helpless, had no choice but to help me finish as fast as possible to uncover the truth. With his help, the speed was easily several times faster. Next up, we just needed to dig out the fire channels for the radiant heating. Finally, Right before the deadline, it was finished. This was the very first house in this world with underfloor heating. Havel looked confused at the text on the wall. That's my brand logo. Didn't you want to see what kind of scam I was pulling on the boss? Go get him and his mother, and everything will be revealed. And the people of this other world who had never experienced floor heating before were instantly conquered by the warmth. Joints don't pop, back doesn't ache, taking 6 flights is a piece of cake. This was the magical power of underfloor heating. Havel watched in awe. Was this really the same trashy young master? He actually worked honestly to fulfill his promise to the residents. And just like he said, both of them were smiling with pure happiness. Right then, the system chimed again. Havel's favorability toward you has increased by 2 points. Successfully earned 36 relationship points. I just smiled faintly. Even though this order was a total loss, if you factored in the cost of the wood, it didn't matter. Because this very first heated house was just a model home for advertising. And just like that, word of mouth spread like wildfire. Nearby residents all came over out of curiosity to try it out, and every single person who felt that floor heating was completely won over. Nice and toasty, right? Don't you want a room like this in your own house? We have 2 contract options right now. Option 1, we build a brand new one in your yard. Option 2, we renovate the floors in your current home. And of course, if you sign up for both, I'll give you a 10% discount on the construction costs. However, even though the villagers knew the houses were amazing, they still didn't really trust this body of mine. Since that was the case, I kept using my scumbag persona to force them into signing contracts. Listen here, man, this price is already a steal. Can't we have a little basic trust between us? Suddenly, a voice called out, stopping me in my tracks. It was none other than this body's father. He also had a -20 favorability floating over his head. Looks like he's another major character I need to improve my relationship with. I was called back to the Lord's Manor. I had been hiding everywhere just to avoid running into the Baron. After all, what if he shut down my construction? Spit it out. What kind of trick are you playing this time? I replied, sticking to my old scumbag routine. The tavern owner ordered a heated house from me, so I'm building him a house. But you're still signing contracts with other residents, aren't you? The Baron made it clear that the people of his territory were precious to him, and he would never tolerate me scamming them. It seems like no matter what this body does, it just causes misunderstandings. Since I couldn't explain myself, making a run for it was the best move. I had barely stood up when he stopped me again. Are you doing this because of the family's situation? Don't worry about it. I can still handle things right now, so just stop causing trouble. Having read the novel's ending, I knew he absolutely could not handle the territory's debt, just like my deceased dad from my past life, always carrying the burden in silence, always pretending everything was fine. I just left him with one sentence. Please don't give up. I'll do my best to. I turned and left, and just as I was calculating how many orders I'd received, I bumped right into a fat guy and a skinny guy. And they actually had the nerve to just walk right past me without even greeting the son of the Lord. Curiosity got the better of me, so I followed them. Sure enough, they were the territory's debt collectors. I couldn't help but let out a grin harder to suppress than an assault rifle's recoil. This is absolutely perfect. These two showed up at the exact right time. Back in my room, I decided to study the system. Chatting with the notification panel, I learned that points can be used to develop skills, and the system uses my existing knowledge as a base. I spent 35 RP to unlock basic surveying and basic design. Basic surveying gave me literal bionic laser eyes, letting me precisely measure any ground structure. As for basic design, it lets me draw blueprints out of thin air. On top of that, the system actually lets me randomly pull fantasy companions. These companions come with unique personalities and skills. If they can replace modern machinery, my efficiency is going to go through the roof. But one pull costs 50 points. Looks like getting RP fast is my top priority. Meanwhile, the Baron's 2 creditors were pushing their luck. They actually wanted the Baroness as collateral. Suddenly, a voice called out from behind. Even if you are creditors, you shouldn't be this rude, right? Aren't you forgetting something? Hand over your invitations first. The fat guy and the skinny guy looked completely clueless. According to Article 3, Section 6 of the kingdom's aristocratic law, entering a noble's mansion without an invitation is considered trespassing. Havel, chop off the trespasser's arms. Seeing that Havel had actually drawn his sword, the two of them instantly broke into a cold sweat. They dropped everything and ran for their lives. At this point, the Baron looked absolutely horrified, loudly demanding to know what I was thinking. After all, these guys held the territory's debt. He'd been kissing up to them, and it still wasn't enough. And now I had completely blown things up. But I already had a plan. I slammed a massive bag of coins onto the table. This is the deposit for the floor heating rooms. Should be enough to cover this month's interest. However, the Baron thought I had extorted this money from the citizens, so he refused to use it. Havel chimed in, saying he would personally monitor me to ensure I fully honored the citizens' contracts. Hearing Havel say this, the Baron finally let go of his worries. After a polite goodbye to the Baron, exactly as I expected, the system chimed again. Baron Frontera's affection for you has increased by 6 points. Successfully earned 60 RP. What is my first fantasy companion gonna look like? That evening, I found an empty clearing. Heart pounding, hands shaking. Come on out, my fantasy companion. A green beam of light slowly traced out a magic circle in front of me. But isn't this damn circle a bit too small? Suddenly, a creature popped out that looked exactly like a hamster. No, wait, it was literally just a hamster. I was completely dumbfounded. The disgust on my face was obvious. Looks like I pulled a dud this time. Seeing how disgusted I was, the little hamster panicked and started squeaking frantically. And somehow, I could understand what it was saying. The little dude claimed it could do a lot of things. Then, it spat a wad of something out of its mouth. I picked it up. It was an instruction manual and a tiny parcel. Inside the parcel were 2 types of sunflower seeds. One red, one blue. The red seed makes the little dude turn giant, lasting for 12 hours per seed. the blue seed shrinks him back down, and buying a 2-color seed combo costs 1 RP. I figured, how big could a tiny hamster really get? If it could grow to human size, it might actually be useful. So I fed it a red seed. The next second, a blinding white light erupted. Then I got sent flying several meters by something. When I opened my eyes and saw what was in front of me, I froze, because this guy had grown to a massive 10+ meters tall. Seeing me paralyzed with shock, the big dude couldn't help but smirk. And he didn't just get big, he had 3 skills. Digging, with an efficiency way faster than a modern excavator. Compacting, where a few rolls could pack the dirt down solid. And the last skill was the most crucial. He could mold and shape the dirt right inside his mouth. At this point, I was practically vibrating with excitement. This dude alone solved my lack of heavy machinery, but having this kind of overpowered beast suddenly appear, wouldn't that look suspicious? Thankfully, this world has summoners. As long as I carry a summoning grimoire and call myself a summoning genius, problem solved, right? Now, I just needed to solve the manpower issue, and large-scale construction could begin. The next day, I gathered the territory soldiers and started assigning them their tasks. But these soldiers, who did nothing but collect a paycheck every month, looked absolutely pissed when they saw a scumbag like me giving the orders. I fully expected this reaction, though. Suddenly, a voice called out from the back. "Young Master Lloyd, what exactly are you planning to do with my soldiers?" I chuckled inwardly. I knew this guy would show up. Newman, one of the territory's 3 knights. Early in the novel, when the territory went into decline, he was the first one to betray the Baron and Bolt. Plus, this guy sold the Baron's info to scammers. He was the main culprit behind the Baron's massive debt. And a piece of trash like this was somehow a decorated knight of the territory. What does it look like we're doing? Newman declared he would never tolerate his soldiers doing lowly labor like digging and moving dirt. I couldn't help but find it hilarious. He was clearly just pissed I was making money to pay off the debt, yet he acted all self-righteous. I shut him down instantly. The Baron already approved it. Seeing this, Newman brought up my past track record, accusing me of using his soldiers for personal gain. I slowly and calmly told him he was absolutely right. But man, you've got a really punchable face. Newman gnashed his teeth in fury, but he couldn't actually attack me. Seeing that he was fully triggered, I scooped up a shovel of sand and tossed it right in his face. The soldiers below were stunned by the scene. After all, in their eyes, I was just a useless, incompetent noble. How dare I provoke a decorated knight like that? Are you insulting a knight's honor, you bastard? I played dumb, pretending I didn't hear him properly. What? You want to take off your badge and fight me? No big deal, let's have a duel in a month then. Newman was a bit confused, but still decisively accepted the duel. That night, Havel came over out of curiosity, asking if I was confident I could win. I acted like I couldn't care less. Are you an idiot? Of course I'm not confident. The guy is a beginner swordsman who can use a monocore. I'm a lazy, good-for-nothing scumbag. How could I possibly beat him? Did you even use your brain before asking? Havel was so pissed he almost drew his sword to strike down the bastard right in front of him. But he was too curious about what this guy was planning. He had clearly provoked Neumann on purpose. Yet now he claims he has no confidence in winning. Truly unpredictable. Suddenly, Havel heard this guy actually asked to learn his swordsmanship. He instantly and firmly refused. His reasoning? He believed that if someone like me learned swordsmanship, it would only put everyone around me in danger. But I already had a counter-offer ready. If you teach me swordsmanship, I'll cure your insomnia. Hearing the word insomnia, Havel was deeply shocked. How on earth did this guy know about that? And the reason I knew, of course, was because of the novel. In this world, knights are divided into 4 tiers: beginner, intermediate, advanced, and swordmaster. And Havel is currently at the stage between advanced and swordmaster. At this point, his entire nervous system becomes hypersensitive, which is exactly why he can't sleep. Although Havel was suspicious about how this guy knew, he quickly agreed. He didn't believe I could actually cure him since he had tried countless remedies for his insomnia with 0 success. But the very next second, Havel was proven dead wrong. Watch and learn, buddy. I've read the novel. How could you possibly outsmart me? Havel's very first good night's sleep happened because someone read magic formulas next to him. Now, I don't know any magic formulas, but reading him a textbook on reinforced concrete structure design, the effect is easily 100 times stronger. All your sword skills are going to be mine. The next day, a fully refreshed Havel ordered me to run 50 laps first. He figured I'd definitely back out when things got tough. But to his surprise, not only did I not argue, I actually started running obediently. And with every lap, I'd come over and throw some shade. You thought I'd whine and resist, didn't you? And then you'd use that as an excuse to say I have no talent and just refuse to teach me. Ha ha ha. I hit the nail right on the head, didn't I? What are you going to do now? I'm actually going to finish these laps. At this point, even the system couldn't help but praise me for being a total menace. Truth is, I'm exhausted right now. How could running 50 laps not be tiring? But compared to the past, this is absolutely nothing. Back then, I didn't have a single family member left. I lived in a cramped rental every single day, grinding day after day just to survive. The moment I opened my eyes, I was hauling bricks back and forth on a construction site, just to avoid starving, just to keep the landlord from kicking me out. I held on to the hope that one day, things would get better, constantly telling myself, just endure it a little longer and it will improve. But eventually that hope turned into endless despair. So this physical pain now, compared to that despair, it's absolutely nothing. Seeing this, a subtle change occurred in Havel's heart. Since you're this sincere about learning, I'll teach you my sword techniques. And just like that, Havel's affection level went up a tick. Meanwhile, Neumann was already planning to fight dirty in the duel. Even if the Baron questioned him later, he'd just wipe out the Baron and his wife together. He'd fake it as them taking their own lives, and then he could leave for the big city earlier than planned. A month later, the duel kicked off exactly as scheduled. But before it even started, Newman was already furious, because I was planning to duel him with a shovel. To him, this was the ultimate insult. The Baron couldn't even bear to watch. He thought the whole thing was just some sick prank. Only Havel thought otherwise, because a guy planning a prank wouldn't be training non-stop every single day, or spending his free time at the construction site, lecturing the crew on underfloor heating. The second the fight began, Neumann snapped, swinging his sword straight at me. Seeing this, I dropped low and arched my back in one fluid motion, deflecting his strike with a single upward sweep. Newman was a little shocked, but his first thought was that I just got lucky, until every single attack that followed was deflected the exact same way. And that is the essence of modern close quarters combat, bayonet fighting. My years in the military weren't for nothing. People in this world just don't get it. A shovel is not a weapon you underestimate. The wide blade, it works as a shield. Plus, it's got enough cutting power to hack straight through thick tree roots. Combine that with the sword-fighting footwork I picked up from Havel and the passive shovel skills granted by the system, which buffs all my physical stats the second I grab one. This was the result of a solid month of training. Realizing he couldn't break my defense, Newman fired up his Mana Heart, a power unique to this world. The next second, his speed multiplied, and he was in my face instantly. With absolutely zero mercy, he aimed a lethal slash right at my neck. The Baron and his wife were convinced their son was dead meat. But right then, I smiled. You see, there's a reason. Havel is the protagonist of this novel. He's got his perks, the Azrahan Aura method, Havel's exclusive mana technique. It absorbs external mana and makes it your own. In that split second, Numan was completely horrified. You absorbed my mana, and that sheer panic left him wide open. In a flash, I swung the shovel and smacked the bastard right in the face. That one hit completely took him out of the fight, but I wasn't done yet. Another shovel right to the back of his head. The soldiers watching were stunned. Nobody had a clue what was happening. They were just marveling. Did the trash young master actually just beat an official knight of the territory? In utter disbelief, the Baron announced the winner. But this was prime payback time, and there was no way I was stopping now. I unleashed a rapid-fire flurry of whacks, leaving him howling for mercy. The Baron yelled at me to stop. I pretended I was deaf. The soldiers rushed in to break it up. I played along for a second, then, when they weren't looking, swung the shovel for a few more good whacks. Bayern, the territory's other knight, genuinely thought the young master had lost his mind. But only Havel felt things weren't that simple. To him, it felt like this young master knew everything about the future. Because 15 days before the duel, that guy suddenly demanded to learn the Azrahan Aura method. Keep in mind, it was still an incomplete technique back then, and Havel hadn't breathed a word about it to anyone. When he asked how the guy knew, he just threw on this shameless smirk and claimed he heard Havel talking in his sleep. But honestly, sleep talking was the only logical explanation. What's crazier, he said he could help perfect the technique, and following his instructions, a method that had been bottlenecked for ages, was completed right then and there. This was absolutely not the same trash young master from before. I was happily beating the crap out of Neumann, completely oblivious that Havel seemed to have noticed something. The Baron couldn't watch anymore and angrily told me to stop. I just calmly told him to look at the letters on the desk. The Baron was shocked when he read them. These were letters proving Neumann had betrayed the territory and colluded with the enemy. Neumann couldn't believe this stuff was found. He'd hidden it so well, but I've read the entire novel, so of course I knew where it was. Sending my little buddy to steal them was a piece of cake. The Baron was just too kind, getting betrayed by his own men and not even realizing it. I could tell the Baron didn't know what to do, so I made a suggestion. Drop a vicious rat on this guy's head. If he gets hurt by it, banish him. If not, demote him to a regular foot soldier and give him a chance to reflect. To the onlookers, how could a grand knight be hurt by a rat? So they figured this was just a disguised pardon. Newman thought he was getting off easy too, but he didn't have an ounce of regret. The corners of his mouth were already twitching up into a smirk. In his head, he was already plotting his revenge. Oh man, it's so nice seeing you smile like that, even though it's going to be your last smile. Newman broke into a cold sweat hearing that. He watched as I fed a red sunflower seed to the little rat on my shoulder. Then that little rat jumped into the air and grew 1,000,000 times larger. My giant little buddy dropped an epic flying body slam, crushing Newman until not even ashes remained. Yeah, I never planned on letting that bastard go. After that was settled, I immediately started on a bigger plan. Havel saw me making my little buddy dig up the territory all over the place. He came over to ask what I was doing, and I told him, want the gold? Build the road. Ever heard all roads lead to Rome? There was this ancient country called Rome, and they were literal road-building fanatics. And what we're building is what they called the Appian Way. It's the key to making this territory filthy rich. Suddenly, Havel asked me, dead serious, are you really young Master Lloyd? How do you know all this? The system instantly chimed in with a warning. Havel is suspicious of your existence. I was sweating bullets because based on Havel's personality in the novel, if he knew I was an outsider who hijacked his lord's son's body, he might actually draw his sword on me or just hack me to death right there. But I had prepped an invincible strategy for this exact moment. Deny till I die. Can't I just secretly learn things when no one's looking? But young master, all you've ever done is drink. And how do you explain the summoning magic? Even the most talented mage couldn't master Mana by 20. Hearing that, I clapped back with a straight face. You get to be a genius, but I can't. I was just born a summoning prodigy. What do you want me to do? Plus, are you watching me 24/7? You have no idea what I do when you're not around. Havel, not exactly a sweet talker, was completely speechless. Seeing this, I instantly changed the subject. If you've got nothing else to say, I'm out. I've got stuff to do. Havel was helpless and had no choice but to let it go. Evening, inside a room, a green-haired guy is stressing out because he lost a ton of money gambling. He's the exact same scammer who swindled the Baron's real estate, and right now, he's trying to figure out where to find his next mark. Suddenly, someone smashes through the door. When he gets a good look at who it is, he nearly dies of fright. He immediately screams at his bodyguard to get him out of there. The scarred man in the black robe grabs him and leaps straight out the window. But I already had Havel waiting outside for a very long time. The scarred guy is a dark mage that Tortoise hired. According to the novel's plot, after losing his liege, Havel was determined to track down the scammer and get revenge. But back then, it was his first time facing a dark mage. Against such powerful magic, he was pushed into the first bitter struggle of his life. But that was only in the novel. The current Havel perfected the Azrahan technique way ahead of schedule. With a 3-circle mana heart, this dark mage standing in front of him isn't even in the same dimension as Havel. The scarred guy notices the massive power gap too. Without a second thought, he takes off and flees. Seeing Havel slowly closing in, Tortoise is so terrified he keeps backing away. Havel gets ready to chop off his legs and drag him to trial. Just as the blade is about to fall, I suddenly step out and stop him. Are you crazy? If this guy is taken to court, he'll definitely be beheaded. Havel looks completely baffled. He's wondering, am Am I actually sympathizing with a scammer? After that, I very politely take him back into the room. I tell him that not only am I not going to kill him, I'm actually going to pay him a salary. There's just one tiny little catch in the contract. I'll pay him his wages every month, but 80% of it will be deducted to pay off the money he swindled. So all he has to do is work under me for 6 to the power of 7 years. And then his contract is up, and he's completely free. Tortoise actually thought I was kind enough to let him off the hook. He never expected I wanted him as a slave for the rest of his life. Havel suddenly realizes that my saving him wasn't out of pity at all. It was just because if he died, I couldn't squeeze every last drop of value out of him. I slowly let out a true capitalist smile. The guy owes me way too much money. How could I let him off that easily? As a ruthless capitalist, I'm going to drain him dry. Tortoise tries to protest, claiming there's no way a contract this unreasonable could exist. I just leave him with one simple phrase: see you in court. Let him decide for himself. In the end, Tortoise happily signs his name on the dotted line. And the funds we confiscated from him, that'll serve as the startup capital for the next phase of my business empire. Which means it's time to start hiring, because 30 soldiers from the main estate just aren't going to cut it. A few days later, when the hiring notice goes public, I never expected an endless stream of applicants. I figured with my scumbag reputation, nobody would even show up. It isn't until Havel explains it that I understand why. Turns out because we finished the floor heating contract on time and at a low price, plus executing the traders in the territory, and showing I can use summoning magic, the locals now see me as a capable and trustworthy leader. Even I didn't think doing all that would bring in this many people. One guy even gives me a super sincere thank you, saying his kid used to catch a cold at the slightest breeze. But now, thanks to the floor heating, things are much better. He also mentions a relative from the neighboring territory who wants in on the floor heating project too. Hearing this, I can't help but flash another devious smile. Looks like step 1 of building my business empire is officially complete. Losing a little money on the heating to build up my reputation the first time? That's fine. But I am not running a charity for the other territories. Sure, we can install it for them, but the journey is pretty far, so we'll need to charge a little extra convenience fee. Havel finally gets why I was taking a loss on the floor heating, but he still has one big question. Why did we build the territory's road all the way to the foot of the mountain? Seeing his confusion, I take Havel to the top of the mountain and tell him, pretty soon, this entire mountain is going to be completely bare, because floor heating burns through a ton of wood. These trees won't last long. Havel is absolutely stunned. Young master, you knew this would happen, and you still built the heating for them? The reason I paved the road right to the foot of the mountain is because there's anthracite coal down there. Once people get used to floor heating, they won't be able to live without it for the rest of their lives. And this coal is the best fuel for it, which means they'll have to buy it from me. Of course, residents of my own territory get a discount, but only a very little one. Havel just sighs, calling me totally shameless. Suddenly, I look at him dead serious. Do you really think I'm a shameless person? If I didn't do this, how would we ever pay off the territory's debt? Havel stays silent, but he points out that the Baron knew there was coal here. In fact, the last few Barons tried mining it multiple times, but every single time, the unstable foundation caused a cave-in. That's why it was left unmined. Of course, I already knew all of that, but I possess modern excavation technology. Using the shield tunneling method will easily solve any cave-in problems. Little did I know, however, those caves are home to creatures my original world never had: monsters.